Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to today's lesson. We're going to be drawing today using a technique called perspective. Now this is a super cool drawing technique that's going to make your drawings look fully three-dimensional on a flat surface. It's like creating illusions. This style of drawing was developed by a dude named Brunelleschi. He was an architect in Italy over 500 years ago. You need to learn a couple of concepts and I'm going to teach you all the techniques, so let's head down to the studio and get started. That's more like it. All right, so now we're in a good space to get our drawings done, and what I'm going to be teaching you today is to be able to draw things like what you see behind me here. Fully three-dimensional forms drawn on a flat surface. Super cool. Let's go over the concepts and things that we need, but first, let's talk about our tools. There's barely any supplies that you need for this, but first let's talk about, you just need a nice space to draw. So find yourself a nice space to draw, and then after that, we'll need some paper. Besides the paper, we're definitely going to need a pencil and a ruler. Now, thinking about your pencil, make sure that you do what you can to get yourself a good, nice, sharpened pencil. If you have a look at this one is relatively dull, so let's see what we can do about that. Now, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you really want for this kind of drawing, and try to find one that has a good eraser as well. All of that's going to be necessary. So, pencil, paper, ruler, and a good space to draw. Let's do it. For this to work out really well, there's 4 main steps that you need to really know how to do well. They're key concepts and key techniques that if you don't get these locked in, it's not going to work out that well, but they're fairly simple. I'm going to walk you through them today. Step 1, we've got to draw ourselves a shape. That could be any shape. It could literally be any shape, like shapes that you know and recognize, like circles, squares, triangles, or it could be totally unnamed shapes that are weird. The thing is it's got to be a line that comes back to itself and closes. That's what a shape means. Now, step 2. Step 2 is we're going to be using an imaginary dot in our drawing that's called a vanishing point. And what we're going to do is connect that shape to the vanishing point. This vanishing point, you can kind of think about like standing in the middle of railroad tracks and looking all the way down. And as you watch the railroad tracks go down and down and down and down and down, it kind of looks like they all go to the same spot eventually down near the horizon. Same thing if you're on a road or something like that. So the lines tend to converge somewhere off in the distance, and that's what we refer to as the vanishing point. And for that, on our drawing, we're going to put a dot. The next step and concept that we need to know is the idea of parallel. Parallel meaning 2 things that move in the exact same direction. Now they could do something like that, they could do something like that, it could be like this, it could be like this, it could be like this, however it is, but it's 2 lines that move in the exact same direction. This is an incredibly important concept that we need to make sure that we get right in our drawings today. The final step in all of this is to erase. Now, keep this in mind. We're going to be drawing, erase. So it's super important that your pencil has an eraser or that you have a spare eraser on the side to be able to take things back away at the end. These 4 steps, shape, connect to the vanishing point, parallel, and erase, are going to make you incredibly competent at being able to draw three-dimensionally. Remember, your best idea here might not be to just watch the video all the way through. You might want to draw along with me, which means you'll have the video going right up next to you here. You watch what I do, pause the video, you make your lines, and then keep watching the video, make more lines, go back and forth like that the whole way through. That might be your best practice to get this done. So here goes. I've got everything I need. My pencil, my ruler, my paper. I'm ready to fly. So let's start with step 1, which is to draw a shape. For today, I'm going to start with a very basic square shape. I'm going to take my ruler and begin to make a square. For today's drawing, it doesn't have to be any kind of perfect square. It can be any kind of box-like form. It can be a rectangle. It could be a square. It doesn't have to necessarily be perfect. You will get the idea if you can just practice it out like that. So there we go. Step 1, I have my shape ready. Now, step 2, I need to have a connection spot. In other words, our vanishing point, the dot that we're going to have in our drawing. So now that I have my shape, I need to draw a dot somewhere on the page. I'm going to include my dot down here in the bottom corner. Okay, so we have step 1, that's our shape. Step 2, we're going to begin now, and I'm going to be using this dot. Now, the fancy way to describe these lines is called orthogonals. I'm not going to refer to it that way. I'm just going to call them connection lines, okay? But here's the deal. I've got to take from this corner, and this corner, and I'm going to use my ruler to draw a connection line to the vanishing point. So we're going to carefully match up our ruler from the corner of the box down to the vanishing point, just like so. Then I'm going to come around right over here, make that connection happen, just like so. And then my final line here for step 2, making my connection lines to the vanishing point. Boom, we've got it. And this is already looking very three-dimensional at this point. This is looking like I'm flying way above a skyscraper. You know, maybe the ground is down here. There could be roads and things and windows all along the sides of this giant skyscraper that I'm flying way above. But we're not going to stop there. We're going to look at lots of other things to do with this shape. So now that we've got it here, we got to look at step 3. Step 3 is parallel. And again, as a reminder, that means that 2 lines that go in the exact same direction. We can't look at anything that is not parallel. These are not parallel. That's not parallel. That's not parallel. This is parallel. This is parallel. This is parallel. Okay? Now, the way this rule goes is in between any 2 connection lines that you have drawn, you're going to draw a line out here that is parallel to what happens on our shape. So our original shape is here. We had a box or a rectangle, okay? In between my connections, I want to make a line that's parallel to what happens on the shape. So here's what I do. I take my ruler, I match it up to the box, and then I'm going to carefully make sure that you maintain it to be parallel, double check to make sure that that's looking good, and now we're going to draw this line in from connection line to connection line. This line is parallel to that line, and now we're good to go. Now, I've got to do the same thing here on the bottom of the box. I have this connection and this connection, except now on the box, this line is traveling horizontally across the paper. So I'm going to match my ruler up, just like so. I'm going to carefully slide it down, make sure that it stays parallel. Once I find the space that I had my other parallel line, I'm going to draw this one in, take it across to the connection line, and there it is. Now, what I have so far is the front of the box, the side of a box, and the bottom of a box. And then the erasing step, which is step 4, we're going to erase the extra lines that are out here. Now, for our purposes today, I'm drawing really darkly so that you guys can see my lines at home. But what you're going to want to do is draw very lightly as you begin your drawings, and then you can darken things up later on. So I'm going to erase, and then there it is. We have now a very accurate, a very authentic illusion of a 3-dimensional square. Now this might seem very basic, but again, we got to start with the basics before we can get on to the advanced techniques. If you got a result like this at home, you're doing a great job. If it doesn't look quite right, think back through the steps. Double check to make sure that your lines are parallel, that your connections were accurate, but if you got this, now you know how to do a couple of shapes. You're like, what? A couple of shapes? Yeah, you know how to do squares and triangles at this point. Like, wait a second, dude. You didn't even talk to us about triangles yet. Just watch. And there it is. We've also got a triangle. Squares and triangles kind of play out similarly as long as the triangle is lined up to the vanishing point in this fashion. Now keep in mind, triangles from other points of view, if I had a triangle that was facing like this, to the vanishing point, it would play out very differently, and that one does do different things. So here I am in my connection step, and then I've got to go parallel to this, goes over here, go parallel to this, goes over here. So triangles can work out differently, but for our intents and purposes here, squares and triangles will play out the same. Now, this style of drawing can be done with literally any shape that you come up with, so let's try something a little bit different, something that's not so boxy. Let's try a circle, an oval, something that is roundish shaped. Now, if you feel uncomfortable trying to draw a roundish shape on your own, you can always grab yourself a tool that you could trace from and do it that way. Could be a lid to a jar, could be a roll of tape, could be anything that is in a circle shape that will fit on our piece of paper. So I'm starting here from a fresh page again. I'm going to take my circle, I'm going to hold this down, and I'm going to quickly trace this circle. Now, the steps are going to remain the same. Everything that we just did for our square and our triangle are going to remain the exact same on this one. So now I have my circle. Again, I need a vanishing point here. So I'm going to give myself a dot. right up here. So step 1 is shape. Step 2 says connect this shape to our vanishing point. Now, a little tricky thing about circles, though, is we don't have any corners. On the square, we went from the corners and connected. Here's what we do for a circle. I'm going to try to take the furthest part of this edge that can touch to connect and the furthest part of this edge that can connect over this way. So I'm going to attach my ruler to the vanishing point, and then I'm going to slide, 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 slide until it touches my circle. Hold down the ruler firmly, and then we're going to go right across just like that. Okay, I've got that connection is made. Remember, you probably want to make your connection lines nice and lightly. Okay, here we come back again. I'm going to connect to the vanishing point. I'm going to tip the ruler in until it touches my circle. Now I'm going to carefully trace that connection line right along the ruler. And there we go. We have this circle is now connected to the vanishing point. We have step 1, a shape. Step 2, we have our connections. Now, step 3. Step 3 says parallel. All the examples that I've been showing you have been like, here's a line and here's a line. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, is we need curves to happen. So we've got to make a line that is parallel to the curve of our circle here. So as I come out, in between our connections, that's how the rule goes, in between our connections, we need something that is parallel to what happens on the shape. So I'm looking at this part right here, and I've got to make something go parallel to it out here. Now, I'm going to try my best without tracing anything to draw a nice little curve to try to represent what that curve did. Step 1, shape. Step 2, connect to the vanishing point. Step 3, parallel to what happens on the shape in between the connections. Step 4, erase the extra connection lines. So I'm going to go through and erase my extra connection lines, and I will be left with a 3-dimensional cylinder. And there we go, we've got it, a 3-dimensional cylinder. Looks very, very good from our point of view, given that our vanishing point is right there. That's going to be it for us today with this particular lesson. I only wanted you to see the basics right now, and I need you to practice it and practice it and practice it until you feel comfortable with these steps. Shape, connect to a vanishing point, parallel, and erase. And when you've done that, you get very, very nice representations of 3 dimensions on a flat surface. Now, in the next lesson, we are going to be taking these same shapes and begin to add complications to it to add to the awesome level of what you can pull off with 3-dimensional drawing using a simple dot on a piece of paper and the shapes that are included. Thanks for working with me today. Keep going until you get yourself great 3-dimensional drawings. Then check out the next video and see where we take it to. See ya.